Katie Kimball here for Kids Cook Real Food and the Healthy Parenting Connector, my regular weekly series where I try to connect parents who really want to raise healthy kids with the experts who have the information they need. We've had some incredible interviews starting in September here and some great ones coming up. And welcome back. It's good to be here. It's good to see you. You know, we took the summer off from new content, which was a nice break for me, probably a nice break for you. We have tons of past episodes for you to catch up on if you ever get bored, which I doubt happens. Today, I want to talk to you about some strategies, some processes that I've put into place since the pandemic started, since that fateful day. What was it? March 13th, I believe, was our first day where school just disappeared and never quite came back. And then we had a summer with no extracurriculars, and it was all very strange and people were just kind of finding their way. So we're going to explore today the importance of routine, but also the importance of flexibility for most people within those routines. I am just not a person who sticks to a schedule very well. I mean, it's almost to the point of ridiculousness. I will make a list and I'll say, I know what's important. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are in order. Do these in order, Katie. And I'm like, maybe I should do number 6. Like, I don't know what it is about me. I just want to stray from whatever is planned. I want to stray from the schedule. You know, if I have a meeting with another person, I will go and I'll be like more or less on time, sort of. But if I just say in my own calendar, you know, from 1 to 2, I'm going to work on this project, the chances of me doing that are so slim. So I am just not the kind of person, not the personality to make a schedule for my family because it would fail. And then I would feel really guilty about taking the time making the schedule that felt wasted. So if that's you at all, if you're not super born organized, but you do realize that your family thrives with some routine, today is definitely for you. Our goal today is to talk about how to teach kids chores and how to have a flexible routine for that. We're going to talk about how to pass on responsibility to the kids, and also how I've always done sort of batch cooking, but I have sort of a special way of thinking about batch cooking without making a special time in my calendar. I don't have a prep day. I don't spend 2 hours on the weekend cutting up vegetables for the week, but I do have strategies to make real food more doable and save a ton of time in the kitchen. All right, so those are sort of our 3 big categories we're going to talk about today. But first, I mean, why are routines important? I think most of us understand that they're good, even if, like me, we resist them. But routines do reduce your cognitive load, okay? We have that finite number of decisions we can make during the day. And if you've got some routines already in place, you're saving yourself the effort of making the decision of what to do next, right? And that's really important for our overtaxed parent brains, I believe. Second, I think routines do help avoid anxiety, especially for kids, especially for kind of highly sensitive kids. When they know what's coming, when they have sort of a feel for the flow of a day, many children and many adults thrive, and it reduces anxiety because we're not always wondering what will come next. And finally, it's kind of a way to batch your thinking. You can make decisions, you know, in one moment when your brain's working well and you're wide awake. You can kind of make decisions that you can then tap into later when you have those routines. So again, reduces cognitive load, reduces decision fatigue. It's a cool way of batching your own thinking so that your decisions extrapolate onto multiple days. On the other hand, sometimes routines feel really restrictive. And so I do believe, for at least for me and many like me, that they need to be tempered by flexibility. So why is flexibility important? Well, first of all, flexibility helps your stress levels, right? Because if you know, I mean, we have people in our family, and sometimes I'm this way too. If I'm expecting something to happen and it doesn't happen exactly right, I can get really angry and frustrated and consternated and stressed out. Well, we all know stress isn't good for our mental or physical health. So, you know, focusing on being flexible and practicing flexibility is really helpful for your stress loads. In our current situation, it seems like everything that's planned doesn't go to plan. And so in our family, we've been talking, we actually say regularly, Kimballs are flexible, adaptable, and examples of positivity. And that's not true. That wasn't true. But I wanted to say it over and over to make it so. Okay, I want to be a more flexible person, so I know I need to practice embracing flexibility and actually like making a point of seeking it out. Um, Also, we know that kids need to be resilient. And we will link to Jess Sherman's interview. She's an expert on resilience. And of course, looking at the world and just being flexible is part of being resilient and bouncing back when big or little things go wrong. So, routines with flexibility. 3 different examples that I want to share with you. The first one is way back when lockdown first started. This was like my code red form of organization. I thought, I need something. We're going to need something. This can't be just an all day, every day, lazy Saturday with nothing on the calendar and we all stay in our pajamas until 2 p.m. We need something. So my code red initial sort of routine, I guess, was this. And it says daily tasks at the top. And there are 9 things that I set everyone in the Kimball every day. And we would just check these off with a wipe-offable marker. Okay, and that was prayer, gratitude, because I knew that incorporating gratitude in our day would help our mental state. So I always said, what are 3 things you're grateful for when I first saw my kids? We had a Catholic video that we were trying to watch every day because it was Lent when everything first fell apart. I asked every person to make a 1 thing goal for the day. 1 thing that they wanted to make sure they had done by the end of the day. And this is to teach my kids and myself to prioritize and to make sure you set some goals for your day, even on a day that feels like a lazy Saturday when you can stay in your pajamas until 2. Brush your teeth is on here, right? That's a routine. And then everyone had like a learning sort of goal, 1 chore at least to do, and something to do in the kitchen. So that's definitely a routine. There were 9 things we had to do every day, but you didn't have to do them in order. You didn't have to do them within a certain time frame. Now I would say, and well, sometimes we could play with friends, sometimes we couldn't. Y'all know quarantine, it was all a little crazy. We would say these need to be done before you would play with a friend, okay? Before you'd like commit to something bigger outside of our house, if that makes sense. So a little bit of structure, a lot of flexibility. And you can see that at one of the links below. I also instituted a daily meal rotation because, again, me thinking the kitchen table drives me crazy with how messy it gets at each meal, and now we're going to have 1 more meal and 2 more snacks at home. This is not going to go well if I'm responsible for all those crumbs, all that wiping up, and all those dishes. So we immediately decided we have 4 after meal chores: wash the table, put the food away, sweep under the table, which really kind of does need to be done every day. It's gross. And do the dishes. Sometimes it's do the dishes, sometimes it's just make sure all the dishes get into the dishwasher, right? It's not necessarily a whole load of dishes. So I just made a rotation schedule. It wasn't this pretty at the beginning. It was much less pretty. I revamped it for the summer when we recommitted to doing this, that every day one of our kids has a different after meal chore for breakfast and lunch. They already had after meal chores for dinner that were based on their age and level of responsibility. For breakfast and lunch, we rotated so that nobody was stuck with the same thing all the time. And that way, we could just remind the kids, hey, everybody do your after meal chore, instead of the whole game every day. Oh, who's going to wash the table? Guys, there's food out, there's meat on the counter that has to get put back in the fridge, right? You can see how this routine, as simple as it is, can reduce the cognitive load, can reduce the amount of effort that I had to put into parenting each day. Now, we shifted again. We're always shifting. We're always shifting, right? So especially when summer started, we shifted into yet another new routine. In the beginning, March, April, May, my kids did have some schoolwork that they had to do online. It was pretty lightweight, I gotta tell you. But they had some responsibilities. Once summer started, they had no schoolwork, no extracurriculars, no responsibilities. But lo and behold, my husband and I still had to work and make money to feed the family. So we told the kids, we're in this together, and we have responsibilities in the office, and you all are going to have responsibilities in the house. So we set up what we called a household manager system. I don't think my kids liked this, but I hope when they're adults that they'll look back and see some benefits. I guarantee that there were some leadership training benefits. There were some interesting lessons learned about how to lead and how to inspire people to action versus making them cry over chores. Super interesting. But here, let me explain the system first. The household manager rotated. We have 4 kids. They're 15, 12, 9, and 5. The 5-year-old did get off kind of scot-free because he's just not old enough to manage the others. Okay, the older 2 had 2 days a week, and the 9-year-old had 1 day a week where they were the dedicated household manager for the whole day. And here's what the household manager had to do. They had to know where the 5-year-old is. Okay, because that we learned that was a problem. My husband and I would be like, well, where's Gabe? Like, people might not know. You got to know where the 5-year-old is. Help people remember sunscreen if you're going to be outside. And the most important, really, was running snacks and running lunch and being responsible for our daily meal chore rotation. Okay, my husband and I got very tired of saying, the table's not washed. It's 3 o'clock. It's not washed from lunch. Whose responsibility is that? And we'd have to look, and we'd have to chase that person down. And we thought, you know what? We're not going to chase that person down. We're going to delegate, and the household manager is going to chase that person down. So we said by 5 p.m. each day, which, again, I don't know why I incorporated a time into this system, because we'd always forget. But basically, by the end of the day, my husband or I would check with the household manager and say, has everyone done their chores? And if they hadn't been done, then the household manager had to do them, because that's the way the world works, right? When you manage and your people don't do their stuff, you have to get it done. So they either had to make sure that their siblings did their household daily meal chores, or they got stuck with them themselves. And really, I think what helped the family move the most smoothly was that household manager was responsible for meals and snacks, lunch and snacks. And we had this list that has lunch ideas and snack ideas. I'll be writing up posts using both of those soon, so you can benefit from those. But basically, my kids learned after about 2 weeks of asking me what was for lunch, and I gave them exactly the same answer every time. They kind of learned that what's for lunch is go to the fridge, open it up, and say, what's the oldest leftover? And if we're a little low on leftovers, then they would have what they liked to call a picnic lunch, kind of like a cheese, cracker, fruit, just, kind of pick them little nuts or whatever, pick them little lunch that they could put together with balanced food groups. So this was great. This was really important because not only did it teach kids responsibility of watching the time and choosing food, but it definitely did teach them some leadership. I think it's something that we could stand to do more of as far as having to get those chores done. Now, at the same time, we have a family chore checklist. It's definitely a routine, but it's super flexible because we don't have dedicated chore times. Okay, I'll show you. It's kind of ugly right now because it's half checked off. Our family chore checklist has quite a few chores that need to be done weekly, and then a handful at the bottom that are monthly. Now, to be fair, it's not like clean a bathroom, but one chore is clean the counter and sink. Another chore is clean the bathroom floor. Another chore is clean the toilet. So we have 3 bathrooms, so that's already 9 of them, right? So that's why it looks like, oh my gosh, there's so many. It's because they're little. We kept them very little, right? Sweep the floor is one, wet wipe the floor is another. I love that. All hands on deck. Yay, Melissa, HR mom. Thank you. Anything that HR mom even halfway approves, I feel like I'm in the right lane, going the right direction. So thanks for that, Melissa. So we have these weekly chores, and everybody had to choose 6. So my kids fell into ruts like human beings do, and they'd choose the same 6 often, and then I told them they had to switch it up. But on a Monday, the household manager would get them to write their little initial by their chores, and they can do those chores whenever they want until the week expires on Sunday, right? If your chores are not done by Sunday, now you can't play until you've done your chores. But see how it's like really, really flexible, and there's lots of choices, and there's lots of options, and kids learn to manage their own time, and adults learn to manage their own time. We do the same thing with the monthly chores. Every week I say, it's wise to choose one monthly chore and get it done this week. However, it's your choice. And if you don't, then you'll have, your 3 monthly chores on the last weekend of the month. And if that's the way you want to run life, cool, that's fine. So that's our goal, is just, again, on Saturday or Sunday, we end up doing the crackdown and making sure that everything's checked off. But for me, that allows the house to constantly be being cleaned, which reminds me, somebody needs to wash their sheets today, and I don't think they've done it. So I got to check on that. But again, for my personality, have to have routine with flexibility. So that's cool. I love that Melissa said the household manager probably started appreciating mom and dad even more, which is so true. Anytime you pass responsibility to your kids, you are going to, two things happen that are kind of cool. One, they do appreciate mom and dad a little more. And two, mom and dad can give them a little gift by taking that chore back at random intervals and say, hey, but I did your chore for you. Oh, then they're like super grateful, which doesn't always happen very often between parent and child. And you had a very easy way to give them a true gift that they actually appreciated without spending any money or adding to the clutter in your house. All right, so we've talked about my code red initial system for quarantine. We've talked about our household manager for the summer. Hey, y'all, if you are virtual learning right now and your kids are home all day, I would highly recommend the regular after meal chores, whether they rotate daily or rotate weekly, just so your table's wiped down, your food's not left on the counter, your dishes are in the dishwasher, right? I would highly recommend having some sort of expectations for chores, daily, weekly, or monthly, whatever it is, whatever fits you. That's the great thing. You don't have to use my system. You need to use a system that works for your personality and your family's sort of interpersonalities. The last sort of tip strategy that I want to share with you has to do with getting real food on the table. Okay, so this is much more like my kitchen stewardship self-talking now. But I've tried once a month cooking where you spend like, oh my gosh, like a whole day planning and shopping, and then you spend a day to a day and a half in the kitchen making 30 days of meals, and then you fill your freezer. And some people love that, and it sucked the life out of me. It didn't work for me. So once a month cooking wasn't for me, and that's okay. You know, I've tried something like the batching, like the prep day, where you spend 2 hours chopping those veggies and getting everything ready for the week. And sometimes I love that feel, but I already told you that I don't like having something written in the calendar where I'm the only one being accountable for it. I tend to skip it. So that doesn't work for me either. What does work is like a multitasking integration. So, for example, last night we had spaghetti squash for dinner, and I cooked not one but two gargantuan spaghetti squashes. And so now I have this big gallon bag of spaghetti squash in the freezer for another day. Like, it's already done. The oven was on. And for me, yes, it extended my time in the kitchen, but not much. And it wasn't an extra thing to put in the calendar. It was just doubling and freezing, which is so simple. Quite often, I'll cook 4 pounds or 2 pounds of ground beef and freeze those in little batches. That's a lifesaver if you like walk in the door from somewhere and it's totally dinner time and you have nothing planned. Just having cooked ground beef or cooked ground turkey or ground sausage in the freezer makes so many things so quick, right? Quick tacos or nachos, quick spaghetti, all that easy stuff. So again, I'm like, it's me giving myself a gift for later. It's giving future Katie a little gift. I actually created sort of a whole meal plan so you can see how I would make double things on one day that then trickle out onto the whole week. So there's a link below for kitchen stewardship on how I did that meal plan. Because I make my own homemade chicken stock and it makes gallons at a time, that's generally like a good genesis to start some of these meal plans where I'll go, okay, I've got broth, I've got some chicken, I can use that in a couple days, and then it just seems to tumble onward once I get started. So download that meal plan, it's totally free. Even if you never use it, it's good, I think, to see other people's thinking and how they save time, and sort of batch. Again, you're almost batching your thinking as much as you're batching your activity. Couple other examples that I've done recently, when we do like taco night once a week, and we do half ground beef and half lentils. And so I'll sprout a bunch of lentils, which again, starting lentil sprouting takes about 2 minutes. So guess when I did it? When I was in the kitchen making something else, right? They sprout over a few days and then you got to cook them. So last night, as I was cutting those gargantuan spaghetti squash, I quickly cooked the lentils, dumped them out into the colander, rinsed out the pot, and that's where I heated up the spaghetti sauce, right? I love saving dishes. I love saving time. It's such a good deal, and it's such a good, again, gift to myself for later. So now we have 4 bags of cooked lentils that whoever's doing taco nights, usually my husband, can just dump it into the pan with the ground beef or the ground turkey. Super easy, saves so much time. And then next week, I know already, like I know which day I'm thawing the chicken, I know I'm going to cook the chicken, and then I've got a couple different, soups planned. And when you just batch it like that and you can pull out broth from your own fridge that you made and you don't have to thaw because you're all planned, I'm telling you, it just saves so much mental effort. And then finally, I was just on a call today actually with a member, and we were talking about like, what's your biggest struggle right now? Her kids are virtual learning, and she said, you know, it's really lunches. She goes, I've always had a pretty good routine for planning dinners. We have reasonable options for breakfast every day. But for some reason, every day lunch is like, really? This is happening again? They need to eat lunch again? And she's like, I'm just totally in a rut. I can't think of anything. So I told her a couple of our strategies. And one of them is to specifically plan dinners that work well as lunch leftovers. Okay, her kids are a little picky about leftovers, but they will eat some of them. I said, man, have your kids plan just 2 meals a week, even if they don't help make them. Have them plan 2 meals a week and that work for leftovers, and then you can have those leftovers the next day. We also do this with packed lunches. Okay, our kids are currently hybrid, so they're going to school every other day, they're home every other day, and so I specifically make sure that at least once or twice a week I have very lunchbox friendly leftovers. Post should be going up next week on Kitchen Stewardship actually, on how we take our dinners and modify them or just slide them into the lunchbox. All the great things that you can just eat cold, like slow cooker meats or grilled meats, or Mexican tacos, all sorts of stuff. So that's like a huge batching it for me, because you're only thinking of one meal. And then as long as you make a big enough batch, it becomes multiple meals and multiple lunches. So quick question just came in. How do you store the ground meat? Just in freezer bags? I do. I wish I could totally get away from plastic, and I would store them in glass if I had like all the freezer space in the world. But yeah, absolutely. Melissa, what I will do is I'll cook all that ground beef, and I'll take 3/4 of it out and put it in a great big bowl and let it cool all through dinner, because I don't want to put hot things into plastic zipper bags. So I just kind of let that cool. I use the 1 pound or maybe a half pound in my dinner that day, and then 3 pounds will go into the freezer. A lot of times I freeze in half-pound portions, just because I've found that I can make a dish that calls for a pound of ground beef with a half pound, and to me that's a massive monetary savings, and I can always just pull out 2 if I need to. So yes, just in freezer bags. I always put the date on them, and I just put them in the same sort of area of the freezer, so that even if I haven't like written it down perfectly or whatever, I can just kind of look and go, okay, I have ground beef or sausage or not. But total lifesaver. I hope some of these tips have been helpful to you. I feel like we're all in this together. We're all like learning how to parent in the digital age together. We are all like figuring out the best ways for our personality to pass on responsibility to our kids. And goodness sake, in this kind of pandemic, quarantine, whatever you call it, environment where the rules have changed, the routines have changed, we're definitely all trying to figure out how to make families work in this time. So I hope you've gotten some really good practical ideas that you can either just steal from me, you have my permission, or that you can use to sort of trigger some of your own thinking and figure out the best possible system for yourself. So just try a system, try a routine, incorporate flexibility, and if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, then you shift it. That's what being flexible is about. We've been in school 2 weeks now, and so we're actually like figuring out, what do virtual days look like? What does homeschooling Leah look like? And I say to the kids all the time, like, I know you want to know exactly what's happening tomorrow, and I can kind of tell you, but we haven't figured out our perfect routine yet. And so we're just kind of nailing it in and figuring it out. And I think that they've all found something to eat for lunch, because I was in here doing my monthly live, and so I wasn't out there helping, and I forgot to assign a household manager. So that's a system that we need to re-implement. Again, I hope these systems are really helpful for you. This is the Healthy Parenting Connector show, where we connect experts who have the information you need with parents who really want to raise healthy kids, mind, body, and spirit. I'm Katie Kimball for Kids Cook Real Food, and I'll see you next week.